Hello and welcome to the Ed Talks About podcast. I would like to inform you that what you're about to listen to are our views and comments from the host and guests. They only reflect their view and not the community as a whole. I hope you enjoy the podcast. And Eddie, play that witty banter section.
And Eddie, I am giving up my Final Fantasy 16 time right now to be on this podcast.
That is dedication.
Why should I care?
Because it's Final Fantasy 16 and it's amazing and I love it.
Aww. Are you enjoying it?
Oh, I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. It's probably the best Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy X.
Oh. Okay.
I don't include Final Fantasy VII Remake because that's different. That's separate.
Okay.
This is the best numbered Final Fantasy since 10.
Okay. Well, my sister's dying to play it, but she doesn't have a 5, and she won't borrow my 5 off me while I'm playing Zelda. So, I don't know. She's just being too proud.
Well, I have my PlayStation 5. It's sat right next to me.
That's
Hello,
what I mean.
my
I'm like,
beauty.
I literally said to her, I'm playing Zelda, so I won't be playing on my 5 until I finish that. And she's like, nope, I need my own 5. No. We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, no one touches my PlayStation.
We're still. This is not a metaphor. PlayStation.
I was about to say, if my daughter doesn't touch my PlayStation, but that would have just made that conversation really awkward.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, I'm saying with my sister, I'm volunteering my PlayStation.
There's a market for that. Anyway, let's not go down that road. Hello everybody, this is the Ed Talks About podcast, a weekly podcast talking about cosplay, Comic-Con, and everything else. I'm your host Eddie, and this week we are going to talk about how to fix Comic-Con. Can we do that? Can we do that in a 1-hour podcast section? Who knows? Who can deal with such a big topic like this? Certainly not me on my own. So I have brought a guest joining us on the podcast. Guest? No, hang on. That was bad grammar, but I'm going to keep on going anyway. Joining us on the podcast is CJ of CJ the Geek and Natasha of Twisted Sisters Cosplay. Welcome to you both.
Hello.
I'm very conscious that they can see me, but I can't see them. And that's on purpose. That's fine. But they've just seen me like...
I can go on camera if you want to see my face.
No. My vision is fucked as it is. I don't want it to be ruined any further.
Me in a hairband right now because my hair's so long. I know, it's so sexy.
Are you trying to cosplay as Jamie Tart?
Anyway, moving on.
Please tell me you've watched Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I know who you mean. But, yeah.
Yeah?
I'm too good looking. I wish.
Wow. And on that note, we're going to carry on. Anyway, let's do a welfare check. Ladies first. Tasha, how have you been? How's the last 7 days for you?
Yeah, it's been really good, thank you. Very, very busy. Enjoying the sun. But yeah, it's been a good one, thanks.
Can't deal with the sun. I hate the sun. I was going to say it can burn for all I care, but it is technically burning.
Well,
so...
I'm enjoying the sun from the shade. I burn very, very easily. But
you know it
exists.
Nice you just don't need to directly see it.
Yeah, well, I just like enjoying it from the heat of it, but in the shade.
Whatever, sure. Good job, yeah. So I can now thumbs up on a webcam so that Tasha can know what I'm doing, but then realise it's an audio podcast, no one else is going to see that. So
you keep putting your thumbs up at me. It's a little bit, I don't know. Just well done, Tasha.
Pat on their head.
Thanks for being special.
CJ, what about you? How's the last 7 days for you?
I'm Northern, so therefore the heat does not work well with us Northern people. So it's been fun. Long week stuck at work in heat. And when you're in a room full of 30 PCs and 30 people mixed with heat and no wind, it is very, very hot.
Ooh.
And I don't like it.
Hot in the city tonight. I'm going to stop the singing now, right now. Oh, I've got to listen back to that as well. Oh, that's going to be really cringe. Anyway. Yeah.
Good news is it
Anyway,
was so out of tune, you won't get hit by copyright infringement. So there's that benefit.
you can't see this podcast, listeners, but I'm swearing at CJ. Anyway, so we are talking about how to fix Comic Con because there has been a slew of, like, let's say complaints or notable things that's been said about recent Comic Con. But let's be honest, let's be truthful. These problems are not localized to one event, one organizer. Every event has their problems. Every organizer has their issues. So I was going to title this podcast as, like, what is the perfect Comic Con? How can we build the perfect Comic Con? So it depends how you want to see that. Are we creating the perfect Comic Con, or how do we fix Comic Con? I think I don't know if this is a good idea or not. I'm going to let CJ kind of like drive this podcast because he goes to a lot of Comic Con. I know I do as well, but CJ has a very unique viewpoint. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say so basically I get to see it from 2 points of view because I get to go to Comic Cons as an attendee, but I also get to work with the Comic Cons. So I kind of pitched this idea to Eddie saying, we keep talking about how can we fix them? What are the problems? So I thought it'd be kind of good to see it from both point of views. Like, we're not going to talk about any specific con. It's going to be Comic Cons in general. So we may bring up topics that you might go, oh, that was from this Comic Con. This is just more generalized, looking at all of the cons in the UK, maybe some of the US ones, because I don't know if, Tasha, you've ever been to US cons, but I haven't. But I know, Eddie, you go to New York. But I think it's going to be more looking at just the UK Comic Con scene and what are some of those little things that bug us that could be easily fixed, that could change the experience.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. So is there? So kicking off, is this like the one big thing you want to talk? Oh, wait, well, the one big thing I want like to talk about is venue, because I think it's very important to get the right type of venue. I mean, from my point of view, a venue has to be not only just hold a lot of people. It doesn't have to, not only does it have to like have good accessibility to get in and out of the building and good transport, but I also think from a health and safety point of view that if there was an incident, how would it cope? Such as, the weather coming in, and you've got to have everyone going in to the building, or if there was, I don't want to bring it down so quickly on this, but if there was a police incident, let's put it that way, a police incident, getting, you need to get back into the building or evacuate out of the building, shall we say. I mean, some of the venues I've been to, obviously, is the Excel, the Olympia many years ago. Been to Scotland's one. I can't remember what that one's called. I don't think...
Not Aerodrome, the Glasgow one.
Glasgow one, yes.
Is it called SEC? No.
SEC, that's the one, yes, that's the one. And I've been to events where they've done it at like football stadiums, and I don't class those as good venues. There's something about football stadiums I don't like as a Comic Con. I think it's I don't know, it just doesn't give the same vibe as like it's a well organized event. Like when you're doing it somewhere like Olympia, etc., that's a proper convention hall. It's empty, it's a square venue, and that's going to be great for Comic Con. Whereas as a football stadium or any sporting venue, it doesn't feel like it's right. Can someone like argue with that with me?
I mean,
or agree?
I know what you're kind of getting towards. It all comes down to, and I see this all the time in comments, and it's, oh, such and such event has oversold tickets. I see that at every single event. Now, I was having this conversation with you the other day, Eddie, about saying, well, actually, Comic Cons cannot legally oversell. They would get closed down, health and safety, they would literally get fined. Comic Cons don't actually choose the venue limit. It's actually the venue that specifies you can have this many people, and any business is going to go, well, I'm going to sell this amount of tickets because I'll get this much money, and that kind of drives the layout and what's in the con. So the question I'm going to ask is both, and God's what Eddie was saying is, would you rather they sold less tickets and have less in the con, or put up with a bit of crowds, not oversold, because they don't oversell? Well, the ones that I've spoken to don't oversell. Would you rather it be crowded and have more content because that's what the tickets have paid for, or less and then it's not as crowded?
I'm coming at this from a point of view of a cosplayer. I find myself paying a lot of money to not actually see an event because of how crowded they are and how it is impossible to move around a venue with costumes on. It's not safe. It becomes very warm. My costumes could get damaged. I could get overheated. So for me, I would rather have more room in the in the actual convention. So if that meant you'd have to have less, I would probably be like, that's fine. Just so I could actually see the con. Because I must admit, there have been times where I have come away from a convention and thought there was no point me buying a ticket because I've stood outside for 80% of the day. So that's my opinion.
Tasha, can I ask very quickly then?
Yeah.
If you're willing to have more space, e.g. less people, does that mean you're willing to pay a higher price because of that?
So this is a conversation I've been having with a lot of my friends at the moment. A lot of the arguments that with the extended prices have been, well, we're not seeing these events, so we're seeing less and less of the events now. So they're putting up the prices, and we're seeing less and less of the event because more and more people are going. So I think it's a difficult question to answer that, because unless I'm coming to the point in my sort of I don't know, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I'm coming to the point where saying which are the events that I'm actually getting my money's worth. So I would have to go to an event and experience it and decide if I'm coming back the next time. So yeah, that's a really difficult question to kind of answer, because it depends on, like, everybody likes different things at a con, isn't it? So what do you want to sacrifice? I can't turn around and say, oh, I'd be fine with sacrifice. To be fair, I'd be fine with sacrificing autographs because I don't do it personally, but I know so many people that go and do that. So that one is a really, really tricky thing to, like. I don't know how anyone could answer that one.
No, exactly. I think from my point of view, it's going to be. It depends on. I think it has to be depending on the event. If there's going to be no cosplay allowed, then I think you're just about okay. Just like shove as many people as you want in a convention hall within safety limits. Great.
But then you still have people that, you know, there is a lot. I know we've been talking about, you know, accessibility and everything, and obviously there's been a couple of events recently that have been absolutely knocked for how they've handled things, but vast majority of people still do not want to be hot, stuck in a crowd that anybody with the best health is going to get claustrophobic. It might, you know, get a bit overwhelmed. So I still think, like, how are the stalls selling anything if no one can see the stalls?
No, yeah, that's kind of what I meant by, like, within health and safety, like, not like pack them in, like.
Well, like CJ said, though, they're not actually breaking their health. They're like,
no.
But there have been situations where, like, you thought, and I'd not thought about this. You thought, like, the fact that you said an evacuation procedure. Yeah. There was a moment at a con recently where they were trying to get everybody out of the doors, and I actually stopped because I felt like I was going to get in a crush situation. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't people panicking. That was just people leaving the convention. So I hadn't actually thought about, would that con be able to handle a situation like that?
Yeah, I've mentioned many times that I do worry that some venues don't allow an easy path for the emergency service to get in or out into the convention hall. It always frightens me that happens. Going back to my original thought, I think if it's a cosplay event, you got to have to manage the number of people, because, like you said,
Yeah.
you've got a different mindset of, like, if you've got cosplayers there, or it's mainly for cosplay, you've got to worry about how big people's props. Like, if people got wings, they're going to clatter into
Yeah.
people. You can't, and it's not their fault for building big rig cosplays, but since they are, but things like that. I think it has to depend on what the theme, the vibe
Yeah,
of the
that's a good
event.
point, because I wouldn't expect the same for like a gaming convention, even though there's cosplayers there. I wouldn't expect a gaming convention to have exactly the same system as a convention that mainly caters to cosplayers.
No, absolutely. CJ, well, I know you've asked the question, but what are your thoughts about the venue situation and ticketing?
It's kind of like there's three types of cons. If you think Insomnia is an EGX, the two big gaming ones, and I think they mainly just focus on general audience coming in, sitting down, playing games, watching the videos, where it's not really crowding as an issue for them because it is a very specific niche group of people that want to go in and play games. You've got what our class is the cosplay cons, and I think it's fair to say that probably MCM and MegaCon Live now are probably the two main ones for cosplay. And then you've got the celebrity guest signing ones, which I'd class as Wales and the Showmasters. They're all about. So you've kind of got two of each in a sense. That is, they each have their kind of role. And I'd say the celebrity signing ones is not going to be cosplay focused. You can probably have more people inside. The MCMs and the Megacon, I know Megacon's new, but a lot of the cosplayers are kind of going there now as well, with it having the old, this is the previous MCM owners sort of thing, kind of, it's the new MCM. I know Megacon don't want to be seen as that, but that's how we as an audience see it as well. But it's basically down to the venue. Like, say, the football stadiums, that, let's be fair, the football stadium ones are better for celebrity signings and stalls. You need the bigger open areas like the XL. Like, I love Manchester Central. I love that venue. Me and Eddie have been there plenty of times together, and I love that venue because it has little pockets where people can go and it has open space. But what kind of links into this, and we're talking about people being able to move around, I did actually have a question for you guys, and it's to do with the queuing. And one in the Excel, would it work if you have a one-way system where the left-hand side is one going out and coming in, and you have the little middle sections where you can swap? Would that cure anything? And here's my other thing. To fix the queue system, do we need to have 3 queues? Do we need to have you don't have any bags and you just go through a queue system then, so they can literally just look at your ticket pass and let you in? If you have a bag, that is a separate queue system for security, so that means you're not stood behind people getting searched. And 3, do you have a cosplay queue for people with props, so you keep the 2 bags and the cosplayers that hold up the queue separate, and then have ones where people are literally just walking in because they've got the badges?
I do like your idea of 3 queues of, like, shall we say, general public, cosplay. What's the third one again? Oh, with bags.
And
So
people
general
with bags.
yeah. So not general public, non-bag, general public bags, and then cosplay. I think that would alleviate a lot of things. Then at least you can then train security, because I'm assuming security will come up on your list later on. So you can train security, like, look out for certain things. Also, all security need to know everything anyway, but you can then train a specific group of security. I'm only going to be talking from what I've heard from other people, because I, as a press user, don't get to use what the general public uses as a queuing system. I go for a different queue, which gets me a lot quicker, so I've got real no opinions. But to share what I've heard of other people, I think from what I observed, I enjoyed MCM's one-way system in London than a lot of other people. A lot of other people really disagreed with the one-way system. I agreed with it because I felt like at least there was a flow of traffic was only going one way. Yes, it's the longest way to get back into the building. You have to make a decision if you had to go in, stay in, or go out, things like that. You really have to make that decision. And I totally understand that and I get that. But from previous years where it's been, in a sense, mayhem, like, oh, that door used to be an in, but now it's an out, and now everyone's going in and out, and it's just been and it's just been such bottlenecking of the worst kind. With this one-way system that I experienced in May MCM London, it felt so much better. I'm trying to think other times, other venues I've been at, like, and the NEC hasn't really got a one-way system. I don't think you can really employ a one-way system there. The New York Comic Con, the Javits Center, that doesn't have a one-way system. It is just literally a free-for-all. But but the great thing about the Javits Center has quite wide areas for people to go in and out. There's lots of doors to go in and out. So you don't need to have a one-way system, which is the same for the NEC, I would say. I think specifically venues like the XL and possibly now like the Olympia now I'm thinking of, you do kind of need to have a one-way system. How you employ CJs, general entry, general public with bags, and cosplay security in, and other than just going in, I think it's going to be very hard to implement, but I like the idea.
Okay, I need to jump in here because I completely disagree with you.
Oh, go for it, yeah.
The one-way system was the biggest nightmare for us. Because I remember being on the one side of the XL and really needing a wee, and I couldn't get back into the building, and they told me I had to go all the way around to the other side. In costume, I was hot, I was bothered. I hadn't got any of my stuff on me because one of my friends had it. I was just trying to get back into the building, and I had to walk all the way around to the opposite side. I ended up going to the pub to go to the loo instead. It just made me not want to go back into the building because it was just so much effort. I liked the fact that they had it at MCM. The one day they had us entering on the side. So once you came out to the front, you could then go into the side. But on the next day, they didn't do that, and they made you walk all the way around the side again. And it was just a pain because you shouldn't have to be walking that much to get into a convention when you're in full costume. You've already gone in. Then you want to go outside and see your friends and get some space and some air because it's too busy inside, but then you can't get back in. It was just a nightmare.
Yeah, no, I get from your point of view.
And what I'm saying is, I never get to see the convention. That's another reason, because I didn't want to make the trek of a mile to get back in again, to then have to walk back out again.
Yeah. I know, I get that, but no, it's fine. I get from your point of view. I'm thinking from a general, everyone deals with this problem rather than a specific group.
But I'm not just saying the cosplayers though, because I felt like that. Yeah, but I'm sure there are plenty of other people who just wanted to come outside to get some air because it was too busy in there, and then were told they had to walk all the way around the side of the building again to the back of the convention center. You come outside to rest, and then you're told you have to walk back around, so you're exhausted by the time you get back into the XL, and then you want to rest again by the time you get inside. It's a very long convention center. And that's why I think I like the NEC, because you can come out into a hall to get away from things, and then you can go back in. It's like, because there's things on the side of it. Then again, sometimes the halls can be absolutely crammed as well. But yeah, I do like I must admit, the idea of having a one-way system inside though does sound pretty good. I do think it'd be quite interesting when you were trying to cross though. I can imagine that whole everybody shouting 3, 2, 1, there's a space and let's run across to the other side of the hall. But I do quite like the idea, because sometimes you do feel like you're going against a tide in that place. And I did feel like that a lot at the Star Wars convention that was at the XL. Because I think everybody was just stuck in the halls. Nobody knew what to do.
Star Wars, people are saying MCM May was packed in the corridors. They did not attend Star Wars. Star Wars,
exactly.
was a lot worse. To throw in a curveball for you both, how would this sound? I know a lot of Comic Cons have general and priority. For people that like have the priority, the VIPs, whatever they call them for those cons, to get your money's worth for getting the priority and VIP, should they have a separate entrance that they can then go in? So you're kind of like paying for priority, so you're given priority access.
I
You're
would
paying
be
that bit
I
extra.
would be for that, because that I don't feel like I get much for priority, because I, as a cosplayer, I end up going into the building and then leaving the building straight away because it's so busy already. So yeah, that actually would make me go, I'll get that, because then I can actually make it life easier for myself during the weekend. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Because it sounds similar to what Showmaster does for their celebrity signings. They got a VIP package so that they can jump the queue to be like
Because Wales do
near.
that as well, I believe.
Oh, do they? Ah, okay then. But I know, yeah, I definitely know Showmaster does it so that they can jump the queue and get to the front, near to the front, at least the first few. And yeah, it's quite interesting that's if you want to employ it for getting into the building. But oh, well, we're talking about what, an extra $5 on top of that?
Yeah,
I
I
don't
wouldn't
know.
want to pay. I wouldn't want to pay a fortune for it, because really, I'm just paying for entrance into a hall that I should already be allowed to be in, but it's too busy, so I'm having to leave.
Mm,
So it's that. Yeah,
yeah. The one thing that I've been hearing about recently, I just want to move on the conversation. The one thing I want to like talk about is kind of like the the type of stalls and either the big companies to be there. Um, I've been noticing this more and more now at NCM London. I don't go to Showmasters. Actually, I might be going to Showmasters soon, just as a punter actually for a change. So it'd be quite interesting how I feel about that event, because I stopped going to Showmasters for I basically found it really didn't fit my style anymore. Didn't fit my vibe. But I find that this year's MCM London there was like quite a few. There was a lot of independent stores, but I wonder if that's the reason why there's a lot of independent stores is because I couldn't get the big companies in. But I don't know. I don't know if people want to see big companies there or not. I personally would love to see big companies turn up, like Marvel, DC, of the comic line, not the film studios per se. I know people hate Funkos, but Funko will draw the public in. People do like to collect those as well. It stops hopefully smaller vendors selling those when they know there's a big vendor doing that. I just felt I know I keep banging on about a New York Comic Con, but I feel that New York Comic Con has everything, and it's because everything's local to them. So it's easy to like ask them, say, "Hey, come along to our event. You can set up a stall here." Like, oh yeah, we'll just drive a truck down the road. It's only a couple of hours for us. Blah 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 blah. Whereas getting something companies to come on a plane and then do this and all do that, it can be tiresome. But I mean, Sitcha, well, do you get to see much of the companies stalls that turn up?
Well, I always try. Well, the perks of usually working the cons is I can get in early and go have a look around the stalls, and I always kind of make sure I get at least walk around. I'm one of those people that, like, for those that don't know, I do a lot of the hosting on the stages, or I go there and do like video content for the cons and things like that. So I hate the idea of just being sat in the green room or just kind of sitting in the background. As soon as I'm not on the stage hosting, I like to walk around. I like to see people because I love Comic Cons. Like, I was an attendee, I was a cosplayer, and now I do all the other stuff. But one of the things, I love how you bring up the Funko Pops, because again, this is a comment I see, is people saying, "Oh, you need less Funko Pop stalls." That has nothing to do with the event organizer. That is, they say, we have this floor space available. Businesses sign up, and the Comic Cons go, "You're willing to pay this to be here? Thank you very much." The cons don't dictate what is on the stalls. They just sell the space, so it's first come first serve. So if 5 Funko Pop sellers buy 5 spaces, that's who they sell it to, because they can't guarantee it. So the kind of twist on what you're saying, do you think there should be some sort of limit on, like, say, right, we want to know what it is you're selling, so we'll have 5 Wayfo pillows kind of stalls, or do we have 5 Funko Pop stalls, and then if we still have some left at the end, we then open them up? Do you think there should be more control on the stalls?
See, I obviously Eddie's there saying that he thinks that bigger stands should be there. Like, it's always great to see bigger stands, because to me, I think seeing bigger stands, it's like, oh great, like that means that this convention has drawn those people in. I think it's more of a status thing to get the bigger stands. I personally spend my whole time when I'm in the convention looking for the independent stands, and Artist Alley is my favorite. If I haven't managed to get through Artist Alley on the, at the convention, I will literally go home and cry, because I love artwork. I love seeing people's take on fandoms, and that's what I buy when I'm there, is little trinkets from those stalls. So I think it's always good to see the big stands, but I think it depends on your audience. Like, I know loads of people that go and they buy those Funkos. They collect Funkos, and they go and they buy things that they can literally go to Forbidden Planet and buy, or you can get off Amazon. They just go and get those sorts of things. So I can't turn around and say one person's buying habits would be affected, and like, you shouldn't have that many stands, because at the end of the day, if those stands didn't sell those Funkos, they wouldn't bring those Funkos again the next year, would they? Like, people are obviously spending a lot of money on that type of content, or they wouldn't be selling it. So it's obviously wanted.
No, I get you. No, I probably should have mentioned about Artist Alley myself, because I know a lot of people who do enjoy Artist Alley, and I wouldn't want to take that away from them. I wouldn't want to say they get less space compared to big corporates and things like that. To answer CJ's question, I wish there was more vetting about what's being sold, rather than first come, first serve, that space is taken up by whoever. I think that would be better if they could say, what are you selling? Is it legal? Because we know training standards are nearby and things like that.
That's the problem I've got, is that sometimes you see artist stands that are just loads of different artists that have been ripped off. They've stolen their work from online. It's not as bad. I must admit, there is a lot of these conventions, and it's not as bad as it used to be. You used to see them all the time. And then a lot of them would disappear by the second day, because I think people would then realize what was going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's difficult to also say what you're going to sell, because I've heard a lot of these stands don't get told that they've got a stand until a few weeks before. So a lot of them are scrambling around by then to actually get merchandise to sell. But that's a whole other issue. So
Yeah. I'm again just trying to think how New York looks like, and I don't think I've seen many hooky stuff in New York Comic Con. That's definitely a huge Artist Alley thing. Independent, definitely a lot of independent sellers of, like, they're not part of Artist Alley. Or what are they called? Basically, if I draw Pokemon, but in a different style and vibe, they're not part of Artist Alley. They have to go elsewhere. Those
I know what you're on about, because I was talking to an artist actually at MegaCon recently who is American. She does all the American cons, and she's done MCM a few times, and it was her first time doing MegaCon. And she said that the difference on how her type of stand is treated in America compared to the UK is very, very different. They said that normally in American cons, they're the ones that are kind of seen as the draw, and they're given way more emphasis. Whereas at UK cons, it tends to be merchandise that has the big, and then the artists and the more independent makers of stuff are kind of tend to be put at the back in their own section at UK cons.
No, yeah, I do feel like there is not enough emphasis on, shall I say, artists compared to, as I said, in New York Comic Con. CJ, what about yourself? What have you heard, between your friends or from other people that you might chat with?
Again, it's a funny one because a lot of my friends and people don't really go for the stalls. Artist Alley, they like to have a bit of a wander about in. And I know a lot of cons are starting to grow the Artist Alley side. Like I'm seeing it a lot where cons are saying we now have bigger space. It is growing, which is great to see. So all these normal merch, like I said, buying Amazon, are kind of getting pushed aside a bit, and it's more the artist side. But what the problem is it's floor space that big businesses will pay money because they know they make money. The artists don't make as much money, and as a con organizer, they'll be thinking, how can we make money from the artist alley? Because they're a business at the end of the day, and it's getting that nice mix of what makes us happy as kind of attendees and making the cons happy on their selling the floor space and making a little bit of profit from it as well.
Is it because we, as a United Kingdom, don't have major, big AAA artists that we could sell to the public compared to American artists?
I just don't think we respect the arts as much in the UK as what maybe they do in the States. As in, look at the comic book industry in America. It's huge. And the artists that are involved in those, it's really popular. Look at comic book stores here in the UK. I can't even think of one nearby that specifically sells comics, whereas in America, there's loads. And the way in which the art and comics are looked at in America is totally different to how we look at art and comics in the UK. And I think that has a huge impact.
I have said many times, I feel that the word Comic Con in this country, it's completely misused compared to America. Well, at least in this country, I've said it's not a Comic Con; it's a media event. It's, for me, the word comic has to be involved somehow, and the artist alley, like as many people said, might be getting smaller and smaller. Sometimes I would take a look around the venue and go, how many comic sports stalls are there? Probably two of the whole event, and it's like that can't be right. So yeah, I'm just noticing the time, so I just want to progress to the next thing. CJ, is there anything else you want to like bring up?
This is the one, and this is going to be a two-part question because we have kind of brought this up, and there's something I want to bring up with Eddie. Is the type of tickets available? And I know this was mentioned on one of your previous podcasts as well. Is would you be willing to pay a cheaper price for a ticket knowing you couldn't get into certain areas of the con? So, for example, again, this is not aimed at any sort of Comic Con. Would you pay for a cheaper ticket knowing you wouldn't get stage access to panels, or you might not get access to, say, for example, I know if you like, this isn't aimed at MCM, but MCM had a Sony PlayStation section, they had an Xbox section. Wales had like a gaming bus and things like that. Would you be willing to pay a cheaper price knowing if you had that ticket, you weren't allowed to go to the stage panels, the autographs, or like this exclusive content? But you could still wander around the stalls and the con, but you wouldn't get the stages and that sort of content. I don't know, Tasha, if you've got a thought on that.
That's a good point actually, because I recently, well, a few years ago now, I got really upset that I couldn't get into a panel because I was in costume, and I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll watch the panel when I get home, because they used to be all recorded. And then I found out that I needed to have a yearly membership, even though I'd bought a ticket to the event to watch something I'd gone to. So, yeah, there's plenty of times where I'm in massive costumes and I can't get into stage access. So, yeah, I probably would say, well, why am I paying for something that I can't get access to? So, yeah, I think that would. And I don't do signings. So, but then I can't talk for everyone. There's lots of people that do, and lots of people that are cosplayers that then go and get signings and want to go to the panels with those people that they're getting the signings for. So maybe if guests were announced a bit earlier, then you could make the decision on the type of ticket you were getting. That would probably be, yeah, potentially.
As a cosplay photographer, yeah, that would interest me a lot. Just have a cheaper ticket. If I knew I wasn't going to any of those type of things, yeah. If you're just there to do shopping, again, I'm sure that that interests you. But if you're a media outlet, but it's not as like not like the major publications such as like Den of Geek, BBC, ITV, you name it, those type of big publication. If you're like a small solo, small operation type of thing, you kind of need to go into those panels. You kind of want to be in those areas to help like write articles and things like that. So you're going to have too many tiers of like tickets for this, ticket for that, ticket for this. That's why kind of at the moment with the let's say you've got the general passes for the general public, you've got industry passes, you've got creator passes, and press passes. In a sense, that's correct for me. But as I've reported earlier in a different podcast, did I? Yes, I did. Yes. Oh my god, my Alzheimer's is kicking in again.
Has this one already gone out yet?
Oh yeah, it's gone out. It's gone out. I wouldn't mind that if my press pass, the industry pass, and the creator passes were at a very reduced cost rather than free. I've said my reasons in that podcast, so if you want to hear those reasons, go to that podcast. I think it's about why is everyone angry
It's about 3 ago. Yeah,
but yeah, about that one.
I haven't listened to that one yet because I think I was like, I don't want to relive.
I have.
So I don't want to relive certain memories. It's too soon. Too soon.
It's too soon, man.
I'm still angry about having to walk a mile to go to the loo.
You weren't there, man. You weren't there. I almost wet myself.
I literally nearly did.
Oh dear.
And that's for another podcast.
It really is. That isn't that actually.
Embarrassing Comic-Con stories. That would actually be quite
actually
a funny
there is a toilet one related that I have given Eddie before.
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It happens a lot to me.
Yeah. So, no, but to go back to CJ's point.
Yeah. Sorry.
I like it's a good thought, but I think you're introducing too many layers, and then the people who are like managing the certain areas are just trying to check so many passes. They're gonna was this allowed to go in here? When I just think it's too much for what it is. I think if you said keep to the same categories I've just mentioned, industry, press, and creator, maybe just say industry, maybe press for the panels, the Sony stands, things like behind the scenes Sony stands, and creator. Sorry, you're there to create content by queuing up, joining in. I don't know. You can't even do that, actually, no.
But not many people get those passes, Eddie. The ones that you're mentioning, like, I've never applied for a creator pass, ever.
Oh, well, I've heard a lot of people were able to get them, probably not recently at the recent MCM, but like previous MCM, Showmasters, any other organisers.
But I think from what CJ's saying is he's saying from the general public, which I class myself.
Yeah, it's
as
more the general.
Yeah.
Would you pay for a discounted ticket, not having access to some of the exclusive content, like the panels and the big brands with PlayStation? Like they have like stores that you can interact with. So if you've got like, it might just be one pass different where it's just you're allowed into the event, but it'll be a certain colour where they can go, you're not allowed on stage panels, you're not allowed celebrity autographs, you're not allowed to go into the PlayStation area or whatever it is, the army game bus that have it, stuff like that. It's just you can get to the event and you can get into the stalls.
I think if I knew what was going to be at that event early enough, I think that would work. Because I could say, well, maybe on Saturday I'll get a full access pass, but then on the Sunday I'm not going to do any of the panels, so I'll just get a general entry one on that day, maybe. So just as an example, but I think it'd be hard for me to say, oh, I don't want access to any of that, and then I find out 2 weeks before that someone I'm obsessed with is literally going to be there. I'll be like, no, I missed out.
But that's the risk you take with any Comic-Con when you get general or weekend or priority, the times you can get in the mornings
I tend to buy my tickets very early on. So, though I haven't bought my tickets for a certain convention that I normally would buy them first week that they're open. I haven't this time because I still haven't decided if I'm going. Mainly because I don't want to stand outside all day and be paying that much money just to stand outside and wet myself.
Oh God, on one event, what you could be talking about? Oh God.
You've never brought that up yet. Do you need the toilet now? Is it like at the back of your thought?
It's subliminal, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the toilets are 1 mile away. Just to mention.
Yeah, round the back of Eddie's house. It's called the Skip.
Wow.
But Eddie, I have a follow-up one for you, and I'd love to know your opinion on this because you've brought this up on many, many podcasts, being one of your only listeners. We talk about photography, cosplayers not consent, photography snipers. How would you like this idea? Imagine you could apply for a photographer pass. It'll be pretty much the same as a creator pass. You might have to pay for it, but each photographer has this pass and a certain ID number or something like that. And anyone with like DSLR, like a proper photography camera, has to have a photography pass. It wouldn't be limited. It would be you'd have to put in your names and details and you'd be identified with a number. And that means if you see anybody that one doesn't have this pass and they've got that type of camera, would be escorted off the grounds. And two, if any photographers kind of step out of bounds or go too far, they'd be easily identified and reported, because we know photographers that have went a bit too far with taking photographs or maybe touching cosplayers, say, or pose this way and take advantage of the situation. Would you like to see photographers with a specific badge which can identify them, which means cosplayers feel safe saying, oh, they've got a photographer badge, they must have done something in the past like at this event and people have been okay with them, and it kind of removes that kind of anxiousness away?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to talk about my other branding for a little bit. So I go to, for those who don't know, it's now become a fetish site now. Don't ask. And part of the content I create for that, I go to in a like it's a marketplace called La Petite Bazaar. And for me to take photos there, I need to apply and say, can I take photos there? And they go, absolutely. When I arrive at the event, I have to wear a lanyard that says I'm a photographer. Because obviously in that event, you don't want, Joe Public taking photos of people that are maybe, in a risque environment, very compromising, attire and things like that. Totally understand that. And as a photographer, I know my etiquette. I go up to people and say, "Oh, excuse me, can I take photos of you?" Absolutely. So we go find someone to shoot. I would love to see that happen similarly to Comic Con. I think anyone with a mobile phone, that's something else. That's totally different. But I think if you've got a DSLR camera, then you need to have some sort of vettedness to say, yes, you are. You can even pick one up on the day. They say, oh, we see you don't have one. Can you go to this desk, pick one up? You can take a name, details, social media, things like that. The only thing that has to happen afterwards is that if, like you said, if there's an incident that happens, it has to be followed up. They have to stick to their guns. If they eject them out of the venue, then they make sure that they are ejected out and stay out, not for that event, but all events. Not for that one event in that location in London or Birmingham or Scotland or Wales. All events organised by said organisers. They need to be an understanding. Yes, you can argue your facts. There was a total misunderstanding. I didn't mean, this didn't happen or didn't mean to happen the way it did. Fair enough, that's fine. Then you can be let back in, and things like that. People say, oh, hang on, why is that photographer allowed back in? They can give a reason for it, But yes, I like the idea that there should be a visible way to say the organisers of the event knows who you are and you are allowed to take photos. Not allowed to take photos, but the event knows you're a photographer and you are being, in a sense, monitored.
Kind of like a cosplay. You know how they have a cosplay meetups register? You could have a photographer register where it says, this is the photographer, this is their number, and then you can go down and do that. How would that make you feel as a cosplayer, Tasha? Because obviously you'll have lots of photographers come saying, can I take your photo? Da, 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 da. And a lot of the time, well, you can obviously speak for yourself in this, I'm assuming it'll be sometimes photographers you've never even met before and don't really know who they are.
Yeah, I actually like the idea of having a code for each photographer because a few years ago I found me and my sister all of our pictures being sold on stock websites. So, and it was, I remember the photographer, they spent absolutely ages with us. So I kind of, and me and my sister never were sent those photos. And I felt like I'd completely had like a good hour of my day wasted for someone to gain money off me. So I like the idea of someone giving a number because you could easily take a picture of that number and then you'd be able to track them down later down the line as well. Because how many people do you meet as well? And you might not have working internet, so you could just take a photo and then you could track them down on a system later. I also like the idea that those people have been kind of vet. I know you can't vet them completely, but MCM have kind of said, yeah, we've okayed these guys. We're going to, if there are any issues with them, then obviously they will be removed. And I
mean,
think it would make everybody like it would everyone would be checking on people a bit more. I think if you've got it, it gives people accountability.
yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, what when you register, like I said, you can't. I don't think you can vet them all, and you can't prove that.
No, but it would be a way of if something did happen,
Yeah,
you can
You'd
track
have
them
their
down.
name,
Yeah.
address, contact email. There'd be a way of tracking. You couldn't fake a driver's license to prove who you say
yeah,
you are. If you're wanting to take a big camera like that, there is a reason. And then if any of these photos get sold online when you are not allowed to make money from these photographs at events, photographers would probably think twice before they try and snipe photographs because other photographers could turn around, look at that badge and say, right, well, you've just started taking photos, and that's how people can find out.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
think
that's to
that's a
say,
good
because
idea.
yeah, because you. I mean, yes, I like the idea of like getting the driving license or some identification to say this is Eddie, lives at this place. You can half fudge though the social media that you could be associated with. You're going to look them up later on. So that's not going to be a foolproof way, but at least it's a way to take a name, take an address type of thing, and things like that. Yeah, no, I do like the idea. I like to think that if any of the I part of me is now I do swear MCM Repop listens to my podcast because a lot of things I've been moaning about for years have started to actually happen at MCM, and I'm
It's
going.
CJ. He's your only listener.
Yeah.
Even I know CJ does not pass on any of my thoughts to them. They would just look at him and just go, "Shut the fuck up! Go back to your stage and stay there. You're not here to make up ideas. You're here to speak on stage."
And even then, they don't like us doing that. But just to be clear, we are talking about all cons, not just
Very much.
MCM.
No,
We're
no.
talking about all of them.
Yeah. Oh no, like
I
yeah,
tell
like,
all of them what you say, Eddie. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised you haven't been banned.
I was going to say, is that why I'm banned from some of these events?
You're not
Yes.
going to get this
Yes,
pass.
pretty much.
This pass is not. It's going to be like they're going to see your name and go, "No, he's not allowed the pass."
Oh no, I'm going to start putting your name down, Tasha.
This is why I'm trying to be kind of unbiased in the middle because I can see it from the point of view of the con organisers.
Yeah.
Because I've sat down with a lot of the con organisers and owners in the UK and had some very interesting conversations about what they do, because a lot of people think, oh, the cons out to get us, they're not considering this. What you'll find is a lot of the time they're trying, they really are. It's just sometimes things don't go as planned. They're not overselling tickets. They're not doing things on purpose. Like a lot of things are out of their control as well because they hire the venue and the venue say we can only do this, 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 and this, and their hands are tied as well. It's a huge thing what some of these con organisers have to do and they have to manage. And all of the ones that I've spoke to are all nice people. They're not big corporate people saying, I need to make lots of money. You'll find the people organising them love Comic Cons as well. And they just want to try and do their best that they can.
Yeah.
Just unfortunately, we all like to hate companies.
Yeah, so I said this on a previous podcast, like the price hike for the next MCM London. I can tell. I know a lot of people are upset by that, but no one's. I don't know if people have thought about thinking may not be Repop hiking up the prices in a sense. It could have been Excel with the cost of
They've got
living.
to pay for that extension, haven't they?
Extension, the electricity prices going up as well. As much as we like to blame solely on Repop, it could be Excel as well. Which you don't know what the external factors are for why a price. But even I said in the podcast, even if they did say, "Oh, because of it's actually Excel," I bet a lot of people saying, "Nah, it's not." Nah. So yeah. Anyway, we're dangerously running out of time on the podcast, and I know I just want to get one more point out of CJ before we have to wrap this all up.
Oh, right, okay. I suppose. I'll do one more. What I wanted to ask you guys kind of finally, it kind of links to the kind of cosplay and the stages and the guests. Because I know both of you say I don't really do panels, I don't really go for the guests and everything like that. I'm not really interested in the kind of stage activities. So my question to you guys is, and let's be fair, you know what? I'll even admit I don't like sitting down watching other people's panels, but that's for a different reason. It's not that they're not good. It's just I'd be sat there going, I would have done this. I would have done it this way. You can't help it. Everyone's the same. What would it be to make you go in and watch a panel? Not necessarily a celebrity guest one, but what would be something that'd make you go in and watch a panel or go in and watch the cosplay competitions and things like that? Eddie, go on. What's your thoughts?
Do you know what? I think it's. I sorry to sound selfish, but like anything like cosplay photography stuff, I would love to hear. Not just it'd be quite interesting to hear someone's journey from how they, how they got into cosplay photography, like a beginner's guide as well, things like that, like how to do certain effects that you could do practically on like maybe within Comic-Con grounds, or maybe when you're doing location shoots, things like that. It'd be quite interesting to see. Do you remember, CJ? Is it last year? I said I was going to try to do a panel then.
Yeah. Because we did a podcast of me putting you off.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Which, and then by the time I actually started getting the confidence for it, they stopped asking people to sign up. I went, oh, that's weird. Oh, okay then. I think I was going to do a generalized Q&A about what to do at a comic convention if you want to get photos, maybe, or how to organize one, or how to present yourself as from both a photographer's point of view and a cosplay point of view, because there are certain things which I swear I think cosplay should know, but for some reason they don't. Such as, when you pose in front of a camera, have at least more than one pose. Have 3 in your head. Have 3. That way you can just cycle through them one by one through different photographers. If you have the same pose or have no pose for the photographer, it's just going to look a little static, and you're just going to look, oh, they all kind of look the same. And
why are you calling me out? Because I never planned.
Well, actually, now you mention it, I remember seeing all of your photos. You look the exact same. Every single character, you stood exactly the same. Every single photo.
I am the most wooden person ever.
It's a good thing that I actually get you to move around in front of my camera.
I know.
But it's things like that. I probably would go to see a celebrity panel if it's something that I would enjoy. No, that's a lie. I was at Wales Comic Con. Strange New Worlds was there. Didn't even bother seeing that panel. Because one, it was weird where they had it. It was like in an open space seating area, which I thought would have been better in maybe a closed off room. And because everyone was standing there crowding it and all that, and I think the audio wasn't great, I just thought, I just can't be bothered. I think I hate to be sounding selfish and lazy at the same time. I kind of think if it was recorded and put it online, that would help as well. Because not everyone wants to sit down and watch it and try to listen to a panel. If it's recorded with great audio, all right, you can't obviously ask a question, but at least you can hear the main bulk of what was said during that conversation, that panel. I would be happy.
So actually, I know I say that I don't do panels and I don't do signings, but I actually used to always do panels. I used to always at least try and do one panel a day, the one that I was really interested in. However, as cons have got more popular and more crowded, as my costumes have become bigger and I'm more precious over my costumes now, I genuinely don't want to try and fight the crowds to get in. Like I was saying to you earlier, it takes longer to get into the building when they have one-way systems as well. So there's been a lot of times where I've been stood outside and I'm like, oh, I'd really like to have seen that panel, but I can't be asked to try and get my way through the crowds to it. And by the time I get there, I'm sure it will be completely full anyway. To be fair, me and my sister do try and get in on the cosplay competitions because we love seeing cosplay, but there have been many a time where we've got there half an hour before and the queue is so big they've already done a cutoff, so we never get in. There have been times where I've literally been told I can't go in to a panel because of what I'm wearing because I can't sit down in it and they wouldn't let me stand at the back.
Tasha, it's not what you're wearing. They just know who you are.
Well, there is that, I'm a nuisance.
I hand them a
aren't I?
photo of you.
Yeah,
it's
and say,
really
"Not
easy to
this one."
spot you because you do the same pose in every single photo, so that means they can recognise you.
But to be fair, there have been some very, very nice people over the years that have kind of, they probably get in trouble if they found out, but they've kind of gone, oh, well, I'm going to turn my back, and if you just sneak into the back right now, we won't be able to tell that you're, and they would just walk off and let me walk in and stand at the back. So I've just found that going into panels now has just become too much hassle, and also they're really warm.
Breaking news. The staff at MCM have just been fired. I don't know why.
I'm sorry. No, I love them.
And they're getting in a new horse now.
No. I love those ones that are nice to me. Me wearing costume isn't a hassle.
No, so, I meant they're fired because they let you in, like, sneakily.
That's what I mean, but they were nice to me.
I know exactly which staff members it would have been as well, because they're usually the same ones on the doors. So well done, you've just got them fired. Well done.
This, like I said, this was years ago, because now I don't bother. So,
ladies and gentlemen, this is called a Tasha backtrack, where she tries to cover her steps and save someone's job.
I'm sorry, but no, it's just and like it's the same for. I did occasionally get a signing as well, but I do find that the signings have just gone massively out of my price range. But that's just a personal thing because there are still people that will pay that, but there's just no point me doing that because my money has to go on my costume and then my hotel, so that's just a personal choice.
Yeah, no, I was just going to quickly cut in there by saying the last time I got celebrity signing was at the Wales Comic Con because it was a specific celebrity I wanted to meet and things like that. The thing is, I don't see the event I see that are great with celebrities are Wales Comic Con and LFCC, like Showmasters, things like that. Like I'm always amazed Wales Comic Con can get, in my eyes, AAA. Well, I wouldn't say AAA. Between AA, AAA, like celebrities.
No, I agree. Wales always has the best lineup when you look at it.
Yeah, I know why.
Before you jump in, this is way before like Ryan Reynolds and Rod McAnally came in with a Wrexham buyout. Because I'm sure if you literally told a celebrity, by the way, can we invite you to an event? It's in Wales, Wrexham. What do you mean you've never heard of it? Just come anyway. It's the Wales version of London, even though that's actually Cardiff. But still, come this way.
But it's Telford, isn't it, that they do? So that's not even in Wales.
Yeah, it's true.
They've just announced Wrexham for September as well. They call it Homecoming.
Oh, is it actually at the Wrexham Stadium?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
to time it around the football. It's like I can't remember the exact name of the place, but they had to wait for the football schedule in order to drop it in at Wrexham, so it didn't clash because of parking and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, is it at the Wrexham Stadium or at the university?
University, I believe, but they still had to time it because of the football. But a little bit of insider knowledge, and you won't mind us telling you this, but the person that runs Wales Comic Con is also a talent agent. So he is actually looks after a lot of the talent that goes
that
to the
explains
UK Comic
that.
Cons. And obviously, if you want talent agent, you know other talent agents, and that's how he ends up. Because it's quite funny because he does a lot of the talent for some of the other cons in the UK. So there's an interesting one. A quick follow-up question, because I'm aware of the time. Would you like to see, for big panels, a lottery system similar to what they do in America and they did for Star Wars? So rather than having the queue, you apply for a lottery ticket, and if you win the ticket, you then get into the panel, and then if there's any spares afterwards, the people in the queue can go in. Would you like to see that? Would that make you want to go to the panels more? Because you know you've got a guaranteed seat.
I did apply for the ones at the Star Wars convention and I didn't get in it. So yeah, I probably would apply. I think it would make people be a bit more selective on stuff as well, because then they just apply for stuff and then they wouldn't just go and sit in everything. But then you have got people that literally go and that is what they're there for. It's just to sit in panels all day, isn't it? So I wouldn't want to take it away from those people. But then I guess you've got the overflow, haven't you? Those people that don't turn up, they could join those queues. So yeah, if there
you
was
could have a
somebody
cut-off point.
yeah, if I really wanted to see someone, but then like I said, yeah, maybe because then I'm like, if I'm thinking, well, because half of the reason is I know by the time I get through the crowd and get stopped for 100 photos on my way, and then I get there and I'm like, oh well, I've missed it. But unfortunately, you can't do a lottery system for the cosplay showcase, can you? But
I don't know.
no, I think that's a pretty good idea. Yeah.
One word, yes. I think I remember the story when Critical Role came to the UK for the first time. They were going to do a panel. It was like towards the end of the day, shall we say? People just camped in the hall all day just so they can sit in that panel. And I felt that was really selfish of those people, because there might have been other people who wanted to see the panels beforehand, but also those who wanted to do everything else at a convention. They did that, but they lost out because those people who just literally took up a seat all day and just went, no, I'm going to park here and I don't care why, and I'm like, wow, you selfish C word. And
I think they did start clearing the halls. They actually had separate queues for the Critical Role, because, again, a bit of insider knowledge, there were 2 Critical Role panels, one on the main stage on the Saturday and one on the Sunday on the live stage with me. And they didn't I don't think anybody realised how big the queues were going to be on the Saturday for the main stage. The live stage would not have been able to cater health and safety wise, so they had to cancel my panel with Critical Role to put them on the main stage. And it was a bit of a gutner, but at the end of the day, people's safety come first, and I just went, yep, that's fine, I'll help you get the stage sorted, everything like that. And I gave up the panel with them to make sure everyone kind of got in.
Such a good person, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. I think we're going to end it here, but we're going to move it over to the podcast extra, and I think we're going to talk about maybe the perfect Comic Con for cosplayers, cosplay Comic Con, because there's been a few news recently that I want to talk about in the podcast extra. So come and join us there on the Patreon. But before that, I need to thank my guest CJ for practically hosting the whole podcast. It's been actually quite nice not to be hosting for a change, and Tasha just for to actually turning up. I'm joking. I'm always happy when you're here. It's always good to hear your voice and things like that. Tasha, where can they find you on the social medias?
So it's Twisted Sisters on all of the important ones, and then I'm still floating around occasionally on Twitter. I've kind of given up on it as a cat called Nico.
Fair enough.
Elon Musk has ruined it. That's a whole other podcast. I can't see anything I want to.
Did you hear that not Twitter, Instagram are going to do a Twitter-esque service on Instagram somehow? I don't know how.
Okay, I need to kick Larissa off our Instagram.
They already have. It's Instagram already have like a metaverse thing where you can sign up to get a blue tick to verify you and stuff like that. It already exists, Eddie. You can buy your blue tick on Instagram now.
Not the blue tick. No, you can
Eddie,
get.
have you not
No,
got it?
no, not the blue tick. They're going to do an actual like Twitter-esque format, like Twitter but on Instagram instead. I don't know how that's going to work. Yeah, the blue tick I already knew about a long time ago. Anyway, we're not talking about that. CJ,
Sorry, I deviate.
That's fine, not a problem. CJ, where can they find you?
You can find my blue tick on Instagram on basically CJ the Geek on everything. If you want to see me rant about Sonic the Hedgehog and Final Fantasy at the minute. And by the way, the new Sonic game that comes out in October looks bloody awesome. But yeah, not much exciting happens on my social media unless there's a con that I'm at. So yeah, that's about it.
Cool. If people need to find me on the social media, if you're for some reason not following me,
don't do it.
Really don't. But should you be mad enough to do that, if you go to foodandcosplay.org/links, that's where you'll find my social media links. If you go to foodandcosplay.org, generally, you'll find cosplay photos I've taken at Comic-Con. If you go to foodandcosplay.org/podcast, you'll find previous recorded podcasts with CJ, Tasha. Oh God, this is like the fourth time you two been together.
We've done quite a few together. It's usually unscripted as well.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants to be on with us, so you keep pairing us up together.
Yeah. If you go to patreon.com/foodandcosplay, you can donate £2 to hear this podcast extra plus other podcast extras I've recorded with previous weeks. Yeah, previous episodes to a companion with the other one. So yeah, there's about 10 now. I would say by now. If it's not 10. Hopefully it'll be 10 soon. I don't know. But yes, and I just want to say thank you to my guests for being on the podcast, for sharing their views, my views, and all that. And on that note, I'm going to say...
Sorry if you disagree with any of them. That's what we probably should have said right at the start.
No, but the thing is, though, it's an open discussion. If anyone wants to comment on like the Twitter when Eddie shares it out and everything like that, it'd be good to actually have this discussion, because then... it's the only way cons are going to improve. All of these are just suggestions. No one's going to get it right. Nobody's got it right yet. Cons have tried things and they've worked and they haven't worked. No one's ever going to get it right. But unless we have these discussions and try and feed back in a nice way, not just going on Instagram going, oh, you should have done this, you should have done this on every single comment, that's not going to get noticed. But if you have an open dialogue and try, that's when improvements can happen.
Are you monitoring my Twitter account?
No, but I love watching everyone else's comments on Instagrams and stuff like that, and what they're saying on all of every single Comic-Con things. And if you go on like that, you come across like an idiot. Just have an open, polite conversation. It'll happen. One day we'll get it right.
Believe it or not, I did not comment on anything that I really needed a wee.
And on that note, we're going to end the podcast.
Yep.
Let's end the podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Jesus
I need a wee now.
So do I now.